Look, because of modern communication and modern technology, the whole world has become our neighborhood. And we are demographically moving closer and closer to each other, and we've become a neighborhood without becoming a brotherhood.
Journeyman is a platform where men can lay down their titles, grow together, learn from each other, and be accountable to each other. Many of us deal with several problems throughout our lives, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. At times, we may feel alone in our troubles. However, Journeyman is a space where you can feel safe expressing yourself with other men that are on the same path. Journeyman is a space for people like myself who never thought they would be living purposefully in their life. All right, we are back. We are back. Let's see.
Nobody told me you could die like this.
Let's see.
Nobody told me you could
All
die
right, you
from
can see us
this.
there. Hey,
Nobody told
we
me.
are good.
Nobody told me.
I think we're
We
good.
never
Let's
ever
see.
saw
All
it
right.
coming on.
Anyways, this is what it means to be uncomfortable.
Nobody ever
It's a
told
perfect
me we
song
could
for
die
tonight.
like
Uncomfortable.
This.
This is uncomfortable. Purpose driven. Yeah, technical technical issues, but do us a favor. You can make sure that you can see us, you can hear us. And if you're watching us, man, do us a favor. Let's live it up. Hey. All right, I'm gonna wait for a text to make sure that we are good. So we're gonna just chop around. And George, how was your man? George, everybody, I got George back in the studio with me, man. And it feels good to have my brother on the left side, man. It is my left side, probably your right. But George, man,
I forgot what he looked like.
Yeah. Yeah, if you go back, you'll be like, who's that guy? It doesn't look like George anymore, man.
Finally going through a puberty.
George, man, how was your month, man? How was the last 6 months, man? What's been on, man? Let's do a quick check-in, yeah.
Everything's good, man.
Yeah.
Good. Had another baby since the last time I've been here. She just turned 6 months.
Oh, all right, yeah.
Popping them out, but
Hey.
well, not me, my wife. Shout out to my wife. But good, man. Started school at University of Pacific, and just good, man.
Yeah.
Veterans Action's doing great. Family's doing great, and it's good to be here, man. It's good to be back. It's been about a year, bro.
Yeah, it's been a year, man. Just about. It's been solid, man. And yeah, thank you, man. Thank you, George, for just being a father, bro, and stepping into that season. And you're in school, and man, just doing work and good work. And that's
Man with the mission.
That's what Journeyman's about, man. And super excited. And if I'm gonna wait for one more text just to make sure that we are good. And it looks like we are good. Thank you so much. Shout out to Zeke, man. Thanks for watching, bro. And thanks for helping us out with the audio. Where you at, bro? Just saying. No. Man, where are we at? If you want to turn down that, we should be good to go. But man, we are here at Sharpen tonight, man. I'm really excited to have our guest here tonight. And just kind of wanted to, again, just highlight what Sharpen is about, what Journeyman's about, man. We just really wanted to continue to create spaces of community with men in the areas of family and community, and how do we live accountable to one another in that area, and how we thrive in these areas when we have that commitment and accountability towards ourselves and one another. That I think it's a great thing. And what Sharpen is about is we just want to highlight folks that are doing that type of work and living out the mission of Journeyman, and we see that. And if you're the first time tuning in, welcome to Sharpen. If it's your second or last time, welcome again and welcome back. We're here just to have a raw, organic conversation about these topics that we talk about. And tonight, man, we have a really special guest, and he's got a powerful story, got a powerful, in a sense, testimony of what he's been called to do. And we're going to dive into that pretty soon. Sharpen is a platform for men to kind of just share out, and with the hopes of that you are in this space of searching, or hey, I'm a father, I'm a husband, but am I really doing anything in life? Am I really kind of pursuing what I've been called to do? And we hopes that these podcasts really inspire you to do that, to walk in mission in the areas of faith, family, and community, because we believe if you're able to take a risk and you step into the arena and you look around and you have a group of folks around you surrounding yourself that says, yes, you can do that, and you're committed to that self in those 3 areas, man, you can change the world. And so, man, we're really excited tonight to have our guest tonight, Rob Young. Rob Young.
What's going on, guys?
George, you wanna give us a little bit more intro of Rob, man? You probably know more than I do, so I wanna give you that honor, man. Can you introduce him?
Yeah, no, thank you, Rob, man, the myth, the man, the legend, bro. I met Rob through his mother-in-law, a good friend of mine, veteran Shirley Serrato, and her husband Juan, about 1.5 years ago now.
Yeah.
And just, I'm not gonna share his story, but this guy's got a powerful story, man.
Yeah.
Awesome brother. From that moment, just instant connection, brotherhood, and he'll share more about that. But does a lot of amazing things in the community, man, and it's just been since then. Got him connected to Jose, different other brothers.
Almost 2 years to get here, but I'm here tonight. So this is a good thing, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, so let's dive in a little bit, man. So let's start out with Rob Young, the little Rob Young, man. Like, where are you from? However much you want to share, like where did you grow up? Where were you born? All that type of stuff, man.
I'll just jump right in, man.
Yeah.
So I was originally from Stockton.
Okay.
I grew up in Stockton, California, and I was the middle of 5 boys.
Got it.
And so my mom was married before she met my dad, and she had my 2 older brothers, and then that marriage broke up, and she met my dad and ended up having me and my 2 little brothers. And growing up, we didn't have a whole lot. We didn't have a lot of money. We didn't have some poverty. And we moved around a lot, man. I've lived in motels. I've lived in apartments. I've lived with family, members and friends, and stayed in cars, and just had a very kind of just broken upbringing. And had a lot of family members that dealt with substance abuse, and I was subjected to a lot of that stuff growing up.
Yeah.
And it wasn't easy. It was hard. But I always felt like I had a purpose, and a reason to keep going. And I tell people, man, I was 10, 11 years old. I was tired.
Yeah.
Man. I was just, I didn't want to live anymore. I wasn't suicidal, but it just was, life wasn't fun.
Yeah.
And, but I always felt like God had his hand on me too.
Yeah.
And so, I bring that up, but really my story really begins as a 1st grade student.
Yeah.
January 17th, 1989. I was a 1st grader at Cleveland Elementary School. And some of you guys might remember what happened, almost 35 years ago now.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think it's gonna be that long.
Wow.
But that day we had a 24-year-old gunman.
Wow.
Armed with an AK-47 and a 9mm pistol.
Yeah.
Enter on our campus as we played at recess. And, you got to remember, this is 1989. So like the term active shooter really wasn't a term.
Right.
It wasn't a thing. It wasn't these type of attacks seem to happen more and more now.
Yeah.
And when we say the term active shooter, everybody knows what we're talking about. Back then, if we said active shooter, people are like, what?
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah.
And so he walked on our campus that day and opened fire. And I was, I was on the blacktop, and a little history about that school. So there was about 75-80% Southeast Asian immigrants from other, countries coming in from Cambodia and Laos, and all these people knew what was going on.
Yeah.
But I wasn't raised around guns to that aspect.
Yeah.
And so the only thing I knew about guns and shootings was what I seen in the movies, and it wasn't registering to me while I was at a recess that we were being shot at.
Yeah.
I heard the gunfire and just the craziness that erupted. And I did what everybody else did though, and I took off running.
Yeah.
And I had about a 100-yard sprint to my classroom, and there were people dropping. Kids that were dropping.
Wow.
And this guy was just kneeling, just spraying at random with his rifle. And I remember taking a couple steps, and I turned to see where my good friend Scotty was. And as I turned around, my feet were swept up from under me. And my feet went up. I landed on the ground, and another round hit the pavement in front of me and bounced into my chest.
Wow.
And kind of spun me like a top.
Yeah.
And again, not registering that I had been shot. And I remember getting up, and remember I'm 6.5 years old.
This is an AK-47.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, that's a 7.62 round. That's a
Yeah.
big bullet
It's a
Wow.
big bullet.
for a hit a first grader.
Yeah. And so, I remember getting to my feet and my right foot felt very, very heavy. And I took cover behind, it's like a wooden handball wall. And I remember looking up and I was about halfway between where I started running from to my classroom. And the classroom was directly across from where the gunman was shooting. And the door, it swung outward. We had a substitute teacher and I look up and she's waving people in and I'm holding myself against this wooden handball wall. And I remember just wood just exploding over my head.
Wow.
And, just felt the voice, man, you got to keep going.
Yeah.
Go. And that was the closest thing that I knew, to home.
Yeah.
Was my classroom.
Mm-hmm.
I had to get in my classroom. And there were, it's crazy to think about now. There were other doors that I could have went in,
Yeah.
but I ran towards my class.
Right. Right.
And this is in the midst. He's still shooting. He's kneeling. He's, on the other side of the blacktop and people are going down. But I hobbled and I got into the classroom. And I remember, the substitute teacher, she's telling us to get under our desks. She's basically telling us to do like an earthquake drill.
Mm-hmm.
And we hid under the desks and bullets are still coming through the wall. And I remember people just screaming and there was blood everywhere. But it was eerily silent at the same time. And I remember laying there and kind of covering my head. And then the last shot went off and that was the gunman putting a pistol in his mouth and ending his life.
Wow.
And I look over, to my right and I'm sitting up and
This is first grade.
I'm in first grade.
Yeah. Wow.
I'm not crying. I don't remember being in a lot of pain. Again, not registering that I had been shot, not just once, but twice.
Wow.
And I looked down and mind you, this is January. And I told you, we didn't have a lot of money. So having new clothes was like a big thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I know that.
This is 89. So remember LA Gears?
Hey.
I had the LA Gears.
Hey.
We need to bring them back.
Hey,
Yeah.
hey, the little
Like-
pump. Yeah, that's
like
good.
like that turquoise and purple.
Yeah.
I like the ones that you said.
Yeah,
Remember
scoot
the
up
ones
to the
you
mic
light
a
up?
little bit. Yeah.
Yeah.
ones that used to
And
light up.
so I had LA Gears on.
Yeah.
And I had a new sweater that I got for Christmas just a couple weeks prior.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked down at my LA Gear on my right foot and there's blood coming out of both sides.
Wow.
And it made me mad.
Yeah.
Like it irritated me because my shoe was messed up.
So I'm not gonna be able to run fast now.
Man,
And then
I
I-
know that feeling. Yeah, that's
And then
good.
I look down at my chest and I see blood on my chest. And again, like my shirt's ruined.
Yeah.
And that my aunt had just bought this for me
Yeah.
for Christmas. And
Wow.
I just remember getting angry and thinking I'm gonna get in trouble.
Yeah.
And I look over at my friend Scotty and he's scooting towards me and he looks at me and he says, I said, Scotty, I said, look at my foot.
Yeah.
And he goes, Robbie, look at my leg. And he pulls up his pant leg and he had a hole in the inside of his thigh, and it was about that big around, but the exit wound was like the size of a golf ball.
Wow.
And we're just sitting there Indian style on our classroom floor and people are just freaking out, and there's some messed up people in there.
Yeah.
And that's what he told me. He looked at me, he says, Robbie, I think we've been shot.
Mm.
And again, like I told you, the only thing that I knew about getting shot as a 6-year-old kid was what I seen on TV. So people get shot, they die.
Right.
Right.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking, I remember not being scared of death itself. I remember being scared of my parents aren't here. I can't die.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow.
My mom's not here.
Mm.
Right. And, my mom was working. She had just dropped me off that morning. Right. So
Yeah.
she walked me to school and then she walked to work and she was working at a local medical center
Mhm.
in the cancer unit. And I'll get to that here in a moment, but I remember sitting there and it felt like forever before law enforcement and paramedics entered in the room. And I vividly remember, because I tell my story a lot.
Yeah.
And so it keeps a lot of the memories fresh, but I
Right.
vividly remember the look of just shock and awe on their
Mhm.
faces
Yeah.
and the disbelief of them walking in and seeing a bunch of kids.
Mm.
Just
Because there was
shut up.
30 kids that
Yeah.
were shot,
Wow.
right? And 5 were killed. And then, the gunman was dead
Mm.
as the cops got there.
Yeah.
And so the look of disbelief of them showing up to an elementary school after an incident like this, it was just, I recognize it now as an adult.
Yeah.
And so, paramedics start coming up and they're doing what paramedics do. And one of the paramedics, he pulled out, an IV and some morphine and he just starts triaging me and starts sticking me with needles. And I remember freaking out and I bit the paramedic. I
Mm.
bit his hand and he shakes his hand and he yells out something that I won't
Yeah.
I won't repeat. And my kindergarten teacher from the year prior, she's standing over me and her lips quivering, and she holds my face and she says, Robbie, they're trying to help you.
Mm.
And the paramedic looks at me and he says something that I'll never forget. He says, you know, young man, he goes, the fact that you're feeling pain right now is a good thing.
Wow.
It means you're alive.
Yeah. Wow.
He says, you're going to be okay, but I need to help you.
Yeah.
And so that gave me some hope.
Mm.
And, you know, having people show up that I knew, you know, Miss Ancanella and, you know, another teacher, Miss Eglin, was standing there, and I let him do what he needed to do. And, you know, I felt a little better too. And
Yeah.
start giving me morphine.
Yeah.
You know, and again, like, I don't remember the physical pain.
Yeah.
I just remember the fear.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fear.
Mm-hmm.
And they end up, you know, carting me out to the front lawn, and they turned our front lawn of our elementary school into a triage. And it seemed like every first responder, you know, in the world was there. Like there was
Yeah.
helicopters hovering and police cars everywhere and fire trucks. And I remember just, you know, sitting there, and they had me hooked up to oxygen, and, you know, again, not realizing like how badly I was hurt.
Yeah.
You know, they needed to get me in because I had a chest wound. And I remember getting loaded into the ambulance and taken off to Lodi, which is the next town up.
Mm-hmm.
And because all the hospitals here were full.
Yeah.
So they get me to Lodi, and they get me into the trauma room, and they're doing the workup, and they do their scans, and they realize that, you know, hey, we don't have to do any surgery to take this bullet out. And the bullet that entered in my chest, it actually broke apart and literally like fishtailed around my arteries and narrowly missed my heart and my lung.
Mm.
And the round that went through my foot, if my hand right here where my foot, the bullet entered in the left side and came out, went straight through and didn't hit a bone.
Wow.
So you talk about a miracle,
Right.
You know, they think that because I was so young that my bones were still soft and pliable, and the energy that was expended when the round hit the flesh, it actually pushed my bones out of the way.
Wow.
Can't deny God had a plan for your life.
Oh,
Yeah.
because
wow.
they said
This
if I
is
was
the
an
first
adult,
grade.
I would have probably
Wow.
lost my foot.
Wow.
And the doctors are still kind of scratching their heads, like where the bullet entered into my chest, going, nah, it should have hit your heart.
Yeah.
You know?
Wow.
And it didn't. And so they decided to not do the surgery, and basically told me that they're going to just, you know, keep me for observation. And so, remember I told you my mom was working at a medical center.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So my mom, she's just got done wheeling a patient to, like a hospital room.
Yeah.
And she drops the patient off, and somebody had told her, hey, Brenda, did you hear about the shooting that happened at Cleveland?
Mm-hmm.
And she's thinking Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah.
She's not registering, like, you know, again, school shootings didn't happen back then. Right?
Yeah.
And she's like, no, that's horrible. What happened? They said, yeah, the school down the street, we're getting a bunch of kids. They were shot, gunmen over there. And my mom starts freaking out. They didn't realize that she had a son that was going to that school.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And so she turns around, and she starts heading over to the nurse's station, and her boss had met her and said, hey, Brenda, there's a phone call for you.
Yeah.
And it was a nurse at Doctor's Hospital in Lodi saying, hey, we need you and your husband to come here. Your son's been injured. And she asked, you know, is my son okay?
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, we can't tell you that over the phone.
Right.
They're still working.
Right. Yeah.
And so, and she goes, no, you need to tell me whether or not my son is alive.
Mm-hmm.
And the nurse said, all I can tell you, Mrs. Young, is that he's alert. He's asking for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, she's like, I'll be right there.
Mm-hmm.
And her boss, you know, threw her in the car and, you know, called my dad, and they met in Lodi, and they met with me.
Yeah.
So I ended up ultimately just being in the hospital for 3.5 days. Came home to a huge welcome.
Yeah.
You know, and cards and gifts from all over the world.
Wow.
It was a big deal.
Yeah.
You know, it really was a big deal. And like I said, you know, 30 people were injured that day, and 5 of my schoolmates
Didn't make it.
They didn't make it. 4 girls and a boy
Wow.
were killed that day.
Wow. I want to pause you right there and
Yeah.
just capture this thought. One of the things that I heard was the guy told you, can you repeat that piece when you got shot? This is, if you're feeling pain, what did you say?
The paramedic?
Yeah, the
All right, so
paramedic.
paramedic says, young man, he said, the fact that you're feeling pain right now is a good thing. It means you're alive.
So I want you to take that. If you're watching this, man, and you're in some place and you're watching this, I want you to take that word right there. The fact that you're feeling pain, whether it's a pain of loss, whether it's a pain of separation, whether it's a pain of whatever you're dealing with, the fact that you're feeling pain means you're alive.
Yeah.
So there's opportunity.
Mhm.
So if you hear of anything tonight, today he's gonna hear more. Take that nugget with you, because the fact that you're feeling this pain means you're still alive.
Yeah.
And there's so much more for you. And so I want you to, men, if you're watching this, I want you to take that and run with that, whatever that means for you, and get connected. There's contact information there. Rob will put his podcast and other stuff up there, and there's no matter what space you're in, whether it's addiction, whether it's shame, whether you messed up as a man, maybe you cheated on your wife, whatever. The fact that you're feeling pain, it means you're still alive. There's still opportunity to shift. And so we hope that this story helps you align with that and gets you into the shift mode. And Journeyman's here for you all. So now your parents, they're your mom, she works for the doctor, and she gets notified that your son has been injured. To get down, now what, man?
Yeah, so both my parents arrived right about the same time, and they get in there, and I just remember like feeling like, okay, good, my parents are here.
Yeah.
And I'm still breathing, and it's been some time now.
Yeah.
It's been an hour.
Yeah. You're like, where's my shoes?
Right. I'm still mad about that. I'm still mad about the LA Gears. I'm now.
For Christmas, we get some LA Gears.
Got you, bro.
You said it, man.
It's on live now.
Size 12.
That's so good.
You
Yeah.
the cross color sweatshirt too.
Yeah, that's so good.
And I remember, I remember my mom. She one of the nights we couldn't get away from it.
Yeah.
Like, it was all over the news. It was all like, every time we turn on the TV, all the newspapers were talking about it. In fact, I have a picture. We can post it later, but I have a picture that was on the cover of the New York Times.
Yeah.
And my dad tried to get away from the hospital just to kind of breathe and decompress. And he's like, man, I step into an AM PM, and he's like, just trying to get coffee.
Yeah.
Because it's all over the front pages of every newspaper. There's my son and there's his friends,
Right.
But like I said, I was in the hospital about 3.5 days, and I get home, and you'd think like something like that would cause a family to draw closer. And in some ways it did, but in other ways, I really think that it propelled more of the alcoholism. My dad passed away in 2018 from congestive heart failure because of his alcohol addiction, and it definitely didn't help him. And my mom's still around, and she had her crutches too. And I want to be very careful because I don't want to talk bad about my parents.
Totally.
I love my parents,
Mhm.
but we didn't have a fun upbringing because of it.
Yeah.
It really was a downward spiral, and it robbed my family of a lot of time. And there was more trauma that happened, and there was cops in and out of our house.
Yeah.
And my brothers were getting arrested and getting in trouble, and I remember coming home, and there was just people that shouldn't have been there.
Yeah.
And I never really felt safe. And
Totally.
there was times where, honestly, man, like we probably should have been taken by CPS. Me and my brothers and stuff, and growing up, it just wasn't fun.
Yeah.
And I remember being about 12 years old, and my mom, she was going through some things and struggling with her mental health, and she had a friend that she used to run around with who came to the house and was sharing her faith with my mom.
Mm.
And I always believed in God. I didn't know what it was to serve God.
Yeah.
Because I didn't really have that example.
Mm-hmm.
But hearing, my mom getting invited, I wanted my mom to change, and I wanted her healing so bad that I remember that conversation. I said, Mom, if you go, I'll go.
Yeah. Wow.
And, and she got invited to church, and this was a church in Stockton, Lakeview Assembly. Like I said, this is probably 93, 94.
Yeah.
And, and I ended up going.
Mm-hmm.
And that Sunday really it changed my life, because I ended up meeting a guy who was a youth leader in our church.
Yeah.
And I felt this, I'm sitting there listening to the sermon. I felt a tap on my shoulder, and the guy behind me, he's like, hey, how you doing? I've never seen you around here. And he introduces himself, and his name's Steve Martin.
Mm-hmm.
And, long story short, man, Steve he invited me to youth group and developed a friendship with me and several other young men.
Yeah.
He was that example to us growing up.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't have kids of his own. He was helping to raise his nephew, who's still one of my best friends to this day.
Yeah.
And, Steve was just that light for me that I needed.
Yeah.
And hung out with me and picked me up and took me to youth group and played football with us, and was like a big brother. He was my mom's age.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
he really taught me how he's the one that told me, he says, you don't have to be a product of your environment.
Yeah.
You have choices you make. You have dreams. You have
That's
you know,
so good.
aspirations and stuff. And really, he was that example for me to realize that I didn't have to be a statistic that,
Yeah.
like what the world was telling me that I had to be. Right.
Mhm.
You look at my upbringing, you look at the things that we had, and there's so much to this. And I know
You're
you
good,
know, we
man.
only have so much time, but there was so much that happened that really statistically, like I still shouldn't be here.
Yeah. Wow.
Right. And it's God's promises. And later on, you know, I'd hear this verse, this Romans 8:28, and I share it every chance I get because it says all things work together for the good for those who love God and those who are called according to his purpose. It
So
doesn't
good.
say all things are good.
That's right.
It says all things work together for the good.
That's so
And that's
good.
really been my life verse that I've stood upon. And then Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans that I have for you, saith the Lord, plans to give you hope in the future, plans for you to prosper. And
Yeah, as you're speaking, bro, like even the verse that pops in my mind is where he says the steps of a good man are ordered by
Are
the Lord,
ordered
and he
by the
delights
Lord.
in them. But it doesn't say this. It just says your steps,
Yeah.
your hurt steps, your lonely steps,
Right.
the hard steps. And as you're talking, man, going back to your mentor, Steve, like the dynamic that big brother took
Yeah.
the time to just do life with you, just walk with you, and how he poured into you, bro. And in that simplest form changed the entire trajectory of your life because you had that figure in your life, you know.
yeah,
That's
and
good.
it really it propelled me to really what my dreams and aspirations were. And honestly, through all this, I've always wanted to be a police officer.
Mm.
You know, and
Bad boys.
Hey.
and everybody says, you know, did you want to be a cop because of the shooting?
Yeah.
And I say, you know, it had something to do with it, but
Right.
my daddy hears me being a 3-year-old little boy saying, "Daddy, I want to be a police officer."
Wow.
And again, I wasn't raised around cops. I mean, there's cops in my house all the time,
but
Yeah.
not for the good
but
reasons.
it wasn't for the good reasons. And
Got to throw that background in there, man. So now we're getting into this phase.
I'm like, we're breaking for commercial. Or
Yeah.
what? So,
All right.
but you know, when Steve was instrumental in that, you know, and telling me that, hey, you don't have to be a product of your environment. And there were some other people that came into my life that God really, you know, used to influence me and push me to that. And ultimately, I became a police officer at the age of 21.
Wow.
Put myself through the academy at 20, and I was again struggling.
Yeah.
Just living in my car half the time.
Wow.
And,
Wow.
you know, and just trying to get through this academy. So because I always knew that this is what God had for me.
Yeah.
And what I didn't realize was he was setting me up for what I'm actually doing today.
Come on.
And I had a almost 20-year career
Yeah.
in law enforcement. I worked for the Stockton Unified School District Police
Mhm.
Department. And then I went to work for Union City, did that for about 9.5 years, worked several different assignments. And then I went back in 2016. I was able to go back to the school district police in Stockton as a sergeant
Yeah.
and help, you know, lead that department. And, you know, in the midst of all that, I became an active shooter response instructor.
Wow.
And I always paid attention to those trainings, you know, and again, to me, I remember feeling this voice, you know, they say you hear God's voice sometimes, right?
Yes, sir.
And I heard it clear as day one day. I'm sitting, becoming an instructor I was down in Orange County, I was becoming an instructor for active shooter response,
Yeah.
law enforcement.
Mm.
And I felt this voice saying, this is how you kick the devil in the mouth.
Yeah.
That's good.
Wow.
And so you know, as time went on, you know, I became, you know, an active shooter response instructor. And really that was my bread and butter. And the thing that I found a lot of joy in
Yeah.
was training cops and working with police officers and how to respond to these incidents.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, because it is an evil thing.
Yeah.
It is something that exists in our world. And you know, for whatever reason, I'll never get into the mind of an active shooter and somebody who just wants to hurt people, just to hurt people. But,
Right.
you know, I don't think it's as prevalent as the media would
Yeah.
say it is. I mean, if
Mhm.
you really look at the numbers, we have social media and stuff
Yep.
now, right? So it seems a lot like it's just happening every single day, but it is happening a lot more
Yeah.
than it used to. But, you know, like I said, I spent almost 20 years in law enforcement. I just medically retired due to a back injury in
Mhm.
April. And I kind of fell into a depression,
Yeah.
you know, because I was like, what now? Because it was a
Right.
big part of my identity that was taken from me recently.
Right.
And, you know, you just even touching on that.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't understand whether it's law enforcement or military. You spend so much time in this
Yeah.
that when you transition out, it's like,
So good.
how do I transition back into a society that doesn't even have room for me?
Yeah. Wow.
Well,
That's
why,
good.
like a space like this, journeyman brotherhood,
Mhm.
accountability. You built that in the police force. You have that brotherhood, that camaraderie, whether it's in faith or community. So I think that's key that you're saying the
And
truth about transitioning out of the
and I
police
used to tell people, you know, being a police officer, it's what I do. It's not necessarily who I am.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize how much of a non-truth was in that too.
Yeah.
Until
Mhm.
it was gone.
Right.
Until I wasn't anymore.
That's so
Because
good.
it was such a big part of my identity and what I found purpose in. And
Mhm.
really, I always looked at law enforcement as you know, a type of ministry
Yeah.
because I was able to reach a lot of people.
Right.
You're serving
Totally.
I was serving.
Yeah.
at the cost and of potentially your life, bro.
Right.
And it was my purpose, right?
Yeah.
And I had been in shootings, man. I've been in some crazy calls where I didn't know if I was going to get home that night,
Mm.
you know? And so, yeah, there was a lot of trauma and there was a lot of things. And
Yeah.
at the end of my career, I was starting to get really burnt out and kind of
Yeah.
fed up, especially in California, man. It's
Yeah.
really, really hard.
Right.
And, you know, they don't make it easy for cops.
Right.
Everybody's second guessing things. And,
Mhm.
you know, as burnt out as I was when it was taken from me, I was like, because I had to retire 9 years earlier than expected.
Yeah.
And I go, what now?
Mm.
What am I going to do now?
Yeah.
Right. But I want to continue serving. I
Mhm.
want to continue in this movement of what I've been doing. I've picked up so much, you know, momentum.
Yeah.
But I don't want to lose it.
Right.
But how do I do it? Right.
Mhm.
But God has been faithful, man.
Yeah.
And you know, when my department sent me home in February after they got this medical report back, the department said, hey, because of some new laws and some new things that are on the books, they gave me 34 paid days on the books.
Jesus. Yeah.
And they said, you know, and good luck with the state with your retirement. You know,
Wow.
it's going to be a months long process, but you're not going to have any income.
So crazy.
And I remember talking to you guys, you know, going, man, I'm scared,
Yeah.
but I'm going to stay the course
Yeah.
because God has never skipped a beat with me.
So good.
And I'm not in control of this thing. And God hasn't fallen off his throne because
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
My world's upside down and fear is setting in a little bit, but I'm having to stay the course, right?
I
Mm.
think we even prayed at one of the gatherings at the house.
did?
Bro.
Yeah.
We prayed specifically for the retirement.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
And there's so much that happened that was just God's favor in that, and continually just looking at him, you know, and there were days where I was weak,
Yeah.
and there's still days where I'm weak,
Right.
but I have to remind myself every time that I get into a little funk of God is in control.
Yes,
Like he
it's good.
always has been. He's
good.
never fallen off his throne. His calling upon my life is still his calling
Yeah.
upon my life.
So good.
And I can't give up,
Yeah.
you know, and it's easier said than done someday.
Totally.
I'm a man.
Hey,
I have my struggles.
welcome.
And I have trouble now turning my brain off sometimes.
Yeah.
And fear tries to creep back up.
Right.
Anxiety tries to creep back up.
Yeah.
You know, and just if I may interject,
Yeah.
bro, I think that's you know, good that you say that, because I think a lot of times as men, and we've talked about this before, we can't show that, yo, I'm struggling,
Yeah.
I'm going through it, I'm
Yeah.
depressed.
Yeah.
How can I be vulnerable? Because it's expected of me. I got to provide. I got to be on
Yeah.
my A game.
Yeah.
You gotta be the man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't show any weakness, but we see that in society, man. It's like men go through it, you know.
Yeah.
And so I commend you for, you know, being open about that, because I think that'll inspire other young men, or just anyone that may be listening. You
Mhm.
may be going through something as a man. You may be in that transition between jobs, and,
Right.
and we think that, like,
Yeah.
we're overthinkers.
Yep.
One of my friends used to call it the "what if monster." You're up in the night. What if? What if?
What
What
if?
if?
What
What
if?
if? What if? What if
Yeah.
I would have invested in Google? I should have invested in Google. you know?
Right.
What if-
Or Tesla.
or Tesla.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was
Well,
But
close.
that's good that you're
And
saying that.
so
I'm
good.
so thankful. Like, you know, I'm recently remarried, right? And
I was about to
I
say,
went
man,
through
aren't you married, bro? You
Yeah,
gotta give
man,
a
and
shout
I
out
have
to
I
you.
have an amazing wife. Lisa,
Okay.
and-
Trying
and
to convince
Yeah, trying to-
both you guys
trying to
to have
get you.
kids, so my kids, my
Yeah.
little ones
Hey,
can grow
no,
up with some kids.
I'm
Done.
done having kids.
No, bro.
Like,
Be fruitful and multiply.
No. There's the
But,
one. That's the wife. So that's the wife one.
I'm so thankful for her because, you know, I never felt alone through all this.
Yeah.
And she's been an amazing partner walking me through this. And, you know, I always love, you know, because I get on her nerves sometimes. I know I do. And
She's watching. I just want you to know
Oh,
that.
yeah,
she's
I saw
watching.
that. She's watching, yeah.
We're live,
Give her a
one
shout
thing I
out, bro.
love, one thing, Lisa, I love you.
There you go. There you
One
go.
thing I love about my wife is she'll remind me,
That's so good.
and she'll walk up, you know, in front of me and she'll sit me down and she'll grab my hands and
That's so
she'll
good.
just bow.
Yeah.
And what she's doing, she's calling me to pray.
Yeah. So good. Yeah.
Because I still have to lead her, and I'm reminded, okay, I have to lead my wife right
Yes. So
now. And,
good.
and I'm not leading her in the right way right now because I'm frustrated,
Right.
good, bro.
or I'm, and it's not her, it's
Yeah.
it's because of life and it's the things, right?
Yeah.
And there's always the things,
Yeah.
there's always the distractions, there's always the hiccups, there's always the, we're starting a live podcast tonight.
Yeah.
And the software shuts down on us at the countdown.
Yeah, buddy.
We adapt and we overcome.
Yes.
But I have to give God glory too, because he is ever so faithful.
Yeah.
And throughout all this, I went several months with not having any income, but I was able to find side work and things just fell in my lap.
He made a way.
And he made a way.
Wow.
And now I'm with the company, and I'm gonna give them a shout out right now. It's called Knowledge Saves Lives. And I love this company because it's made up of former military, law enforcement, firefighters.
Love that. Yeah.
And they all have a story.
Yes.
And they all have an amazing passion to make schools safer, to make workplaces safer, to make our society safer,
Yeah.
and bring the knowledge of, whether it's run, hide, fight, or whether it's doing site assessments and, site vulnerability, tests and everything else. Man, the doors that that are starting to open for our company and for us as individuals, man, it brings us all purpose.
Yes.
And so, I'm very, very thankful. So publicly, I want to give God glory for, introducing this company to me, because it was kind of crazy how it happened, but it kept getting brought up to me, and it was to the point where I couldn't ignore it.
Yeah.
And then I continued, man. I don't feel like I lost any momentum.
Yeah.
And now I'm doing active shooters, active shooter trainings.
Yeah.
So let me
Clear that up.
And active shooter classes
Yes.
and trainings and teaching people how to overcome.
Yes.
And and giving them some knowledge to hopefully save their life or someone else's life in the event of an emergency.
Yeah.
And it's not just for active shooters; it's really situational awareness,
Right.
And, the stuff that we're bringing, and it's given me another sense of purpose.
Love that, man. So one thing I heard through that story is, one, that you love your wife, and two, one of the things that I just got back from marriage retreat, which is phenomenal, man. It kind of I've been married for 20 years, and so it kind of brings that back.
Strength right there.
Through so one of the things that you said was that she grabbed your hand, and the difference between your spouse is that usually your spouse's hand is probably smaller than yours. Okay.
Hopefully.
So hopefully,
If you're a man.
right? Yeah, exactly. So
But I've seen it vice versa.
Hopefully it's smaller and softer. If you guys got soft hands, man.
I got soft hands, and my wife likes my soft hands. So she, So, anyways,
He
one
said
of
that
the
with the deep voice.
Yeah,
He's like,
yeah.
"I
That's
love
soft
my
that's
hands.
that bump and grind song that I wanted to play. But one of the things that yeah, exactly. They said this, which just, man, it just resonate, and they basically said, you know how your hand has gaps.
Yeah.
And when your wife's hand, they put that together, she fills those gaps.
Yeah.
And dude, that's what that's what a wife is for,
Yeah.
right? Like, not to put us down, or like, we know that we're not the smartest men all the time. We deal with issues where we know all that. But when you have a wife that can feel your hand, the gaps in your hand,
Yeah.
that's a powerful thing. And then you said that through that you started understanding, even gaining strength from that, because that's when the Bible talks about you leave your family and you cleave to your wife, that's part of cleaving.
The two
Yeah.
become one.
Right, the two become one, right? And so, man, I want to honor you that, and then I want to also stop and pause, and I want to honor all law enforcement folks,
Yes.
man,
Yeah.
and our military folks, and these men. I've done several ride-alongs with our law enforcement partners, man, and you guys deal with a lot. It's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's
man.
an everyday, constant bad thing, So.
Yeah. You don't see the best in people all the time.
Yeah, nobody runs to danger like the cops, like law
Yeah.
enforcement. Nobody runs to danger. Everybody runs away from danger. And now you got law enforcement, thankfully, man, and it's thankfully our counties is law enforcement friendly, man. But again, I see that how you go through a lot. They go through a lot. And so I want to honor you all, man, and thank you for stepping into the
Absolutely.
arena there and serving and protecting our homes and your homes and the
Our
community as a
streets,
whole.
yeah.
It's a blessing. Our country, you know, I honor you all, man. That's a big arena to step into, and it's not just a career, it's a calling, it's a gifting,
Absolutely.
it's all that. So I want to honor all your law enforcement partners. But now a little bit about your job that you're in. Tell us a little bit more about that, man. Like, what does that look like?
Man, so this company has been around for 10 years, and it was founded by a couple of cops
Yeah,
in a garage while they're sitting around having a beer
yeah,
and just shooting the breeze and saying, how can we make schools safer?
yeah.
And it literally started with a conversation,
Wow.
and it grew, and they started out doing like the Scared Straight stuff,
Yeah,
and then that kind of morphed into doing more campus safety stuff,
yeah,
and the company, it grew steady but slow,
Yeah.
and there was about 10 guys that were teaching classes every now and then, and they
Yeah.
were all working at the time. And then just in the last year or two, it's taken off, and we have over 50 consultants
wow.
that come
Awesome.
from the similar backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the stories, man, like we have a guy, Rich Howard, good friend of mine. He survived the Route 91 shooting.
Wow.
He was a cop.
Yeah.
He was stuck in that shooting
Wow.
with his wife. And we have a guy that was at the Boston Marathon.
Wow. Wow.
We have officers that have been shot, and we have John Wilson, survived an incredible firefight
Yeah.
up in Sacramento, and actually had a finger blown off.
Wow.
At a gunfight, and his partner was killed.
Mm.
And just tremendous stories, man.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be like as crazy you think, but we've all been through things that relate. And I bring that up, it's because like I just told my story, and this is my story, and
Yeah.
I always tell my story not to get any limelight
No.
or people have woe is me or nothing. I tell my story because it inspires thought, and it
Yes.
connects with people,
Mhm.
and I believe it brings some hope.
Totally.
And that's what we're doing in these trainings.
Yeah.
And again, we're not necessarily a Christian company, but
Right.
we have a lot of Christians that work for
Yeah.
us. And
So cool.
we hold each other accountable,
Mhm.
and it's just amazing.
Yeah.
I get to travel up another state, and now we're starting to sign some contracts out of state.
Wow.
He has a chance we're going to be going to Hawaii here.
Wow.
pretty quick.
I think you need a partner to go with you on that one.
Yeah.
I got
So,
seniority. But I know
I'll be
you're
your
wrong.
business development manager.
but I love it, and and I'm still working with some other groups too,
Yeah.
and I still part time and get to every once in a while get to still train cops, and
Yeah.
because we teach with Knowledge Saves Lives, we do a lot of civilian trainings and
Yeah.
stuff like that. We don't really work with a lot of law enforcement. We're starting to,
Yeah.
but I work with another company as well, doing active shooter training for law enforcement and
Yeah.
tactical medicine. And then, I'm part owner in a company, Modern Warrior Training Concepts, and we get to do some firearms training.
Nice.
We focus on the church security side.
So cool.
And really,
Wow.
it's because of my story and our stories that come together that give us the passion to do what we do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. And so again, there's that Romans 8:28.
Yes, sir.
aspect.
Yeah.
And it really does. It goes right into what I do every day, what
Yeah.
I eat, sleep, and breathe.
Yeah.
I love doing what I do,
Mhm.
and I'm excited to see the doors that are still opening. And it's incredible.
Yeah.
And talk about. I want to go back to the law enforcement
Yeah.
thing. One of the things I wanted to share, because I don't know who's listening.
That's right.
One of the things that I'm dealing with, and,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of cops and firefighters, paramedics, nurses, we don't have time to process.
So good.
And we go to a crazy call, and things. There's always these calls, right? These calls for service that stay with us, and that will probably die with us.
Yeah.
And especially dealing with kids.
Yes.
And I've had a lot of crazy just attacks on children, car accidents. I've pulled kids out of pools and
Yeah.
hot tubs,
Yeah.
and done CPR on a 2-year-old that was holding on to my finger,
Wow.
and her airway's closing, and her eyes are open, and she fades off into eternity.
Yeah.
While my own daughter, who's going to be 17 here, she was 2 at the time.
Right. Wow.
That call and calls like that live with me.
Yeah.
But I didn't have time to process, and I didn't have time to really, deal with it like I should have.
Right.
And what I'm noticing now is, now that I'm having some time
Yeah.
to process,
Yeah.
these things are starting to spring up.
Right.
And I'm wondering, I'm sitting here, I know why,
Yeah.
but I have days where I'm just like, I'm in
Yeah.
a funk right now.
Yeah.
And I'm having hard, like a little bit of a hard time here and there, just again, processing it.
Yeah.
And wondering why I'm like not feeling good. And, and it's just, it's something I think all of us go through. And I know like you
Yeah.
being a Marine and being, and you have an incredible story. That trauma is always going to live with you.
Yeah.
You losing friends and being attacked and surviving your attack, and it's something that we're always going to live with.
Yeah.
And I bring that up because I don't know, there could be somebody listening.
Yeah.
Like, just don't give up.
That's right.
You can't give up.
So good.
Your story is still being written, just like my story is
So
still being
good.
written.
Yeah.
I'm not done. I'm nowhere near done.
That's right. Yeah.
I'm just on to the next chapter.
Right. You're hurting, but it's a good thing because you're alive.
That's
Right.
good.
So good.
Right.
Yeah.
And even to add on to that, you said
Wow.
with your group, and even amongst each other as friends, because we know each other.
Yeah.
obviously, like we go through these things, but like, you said the word accountability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For those that may be hearing, especially men,
Yeah.
how important is it to be accountable?
So
Because the
good.
Bible says that a brother is born for the day of adversity.
So good.
Right? And we're not here to fix each other. We're
No.
here to lift each other up. So how would you say just accountability with your
Yeah.
brothers?
Just being real. Like how many conversations have I had with you, George?
Yeah.
Going, hey, dude, I blew it.
Yeah.
I mean, just a similar conversation, just driving over here tonight,
Yeah.
in the car together. And, I'm not perfect, man.
No.
I'm very broken in many ways. still.
Yeah.
We all
Welcome
are,
to the
But
club.
I serve a God whose hands
So
are
good.
around me.
Yeah.
even that fulfilling scripture, iron sharpens iron.
So
Yes,
one
sir.
man sharpens another.
Yes, sir.
And so you have to be vulnerable. You have to allow yourself to open up. You have to find those people that are going to speak life into you.
Yeah.
You have to find, guys like these that'll tell me, hey, dude, you're messing up right now.
Yeah.
I
Do it
read,
out of love, right?
Yeah.
I read somewhere
Call,
says
but,
find someone that's
don't
gonna
be afraid to call for correction.
So good.
and that's
Peace.
a big key. What did it say?
Ouch.
Find some people that'll pray you back to life, not plan your funeral.
That's so good.
And if you can get yourself a group of brothers that are going to lift you up, I heard a joke one time. It says, people, you'll have all kinds of people at your funeral because they want to see you on your back. But when you're alive, if you can just find 5 to carry you,
Right.
and you've talked about that, where as fathers we go through things,
Yeah.
Trauma, whether
Mhm.
PTSD, that's a
Yeah.
symptom.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, sometimes you could pray. But
Yeah.
you need that. That's what
Yes.
God created community. So
Mhm.
when you were talking about accountability and stuff like that, community, how even to be able to have that vulnerability where I know I can call both of you right now, I'm going through it,
Right.
Yeah.
and you're gonna love me, correct me, but you're gonna be there,
Yeah.
without judging me like, oh, you sinner,
Yeah.
go to hell, but how
I
important.
mean, I might.
Yeah.
But you guys buy me a coffee first. You're a cop, give me a donut. You know what I'm saying?
Give me some crayons.
Some crayons. Hey, that's a Marine term that happened after. But you know what? Hey, tomorrow's a Marine Corps birthday. I'm just throwing that out there.
Hey,
So if y'all
yeah.
want to take me out to eat,
Heck
what I'm saying?
yeah.
Yeah.
Heck
But,
yeah. Hoorah.
and that accountability, how has that helped you to know, like I got your 6,
Yeah.
I got your 6, we got
Yeah.
just lifting each other
So
up. That's
good.
Bible, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again,
So
God,
good.
giving God glory, man. He has given.
Yes.
He's given me a lot of good men. And women too,
Yeah.
growing up, I have a lot of moms, right? A lot of
Yeah.
aunties,
That's so
that
good.
were. I have a lot of family that aren't my relatives,
Yeah.
That's my
Yeah.
life.
right? And so, I mean, I love my relatives, I
Yeah.
really do. There's just not a lot of them left,
Right.
but I have tremendous family, and I have a lot of people that, that have loved me through it. I've had a lot of people that I've been able to reciprocate that to,
Yeah.
right? And love them through whatever they're going through. And, being vulnerable and being open, I'm not saying share your struggles with everybody,
Right.
but you got to find that few.
True.
You got to find the few that can hold you close, that can, be that brother that can tell you things out of love that you need to hear.
Yeah.
Again, that call to correction, but then you have to also humble yourself to allow that
Yeah.
correction, right?
Yeah.
And what steps does that take? And sometimes it's not going to be an overnight
No, sir.
process.
It's a journey.
Well,
It's a
even just as
journey.
men, like being able to say, "Yo, I need help."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even if
Mm.
there's some men listening right now,
Yeah.
it's okay. It's
It's okay not to be okay.
It's
Yeah.
okay. It's not wrong to be wrong. It's wrong to stay wrong. If you
Yeah.
need help, reach out,
Right.
man.
Yeah.
Because that one lifeline,
Right.
I'm doing well. It can very well save your life.
Correct. Yeah, man. One thing I wanted to uplift in this is that this is what the conversations are about, about commitment and accountability, focusing on strengthening our weaknesses, but what we're good at and our time, and learning and increasing in knowledge and skill from one another.
Yeah.
When you begin to have that support, yeah, we're faith-based. We love God. We're men, but we fail a lot, and so while others are talking about Jesus and salvation, that's key, that's essential. We as journeymen want to deepen that conversation for conversations like this.
Yeah.
While others aren't talking about commitment and accountability for support of the journey, it's so important, because moments of time there's no space for like this for men. There's just not anywhere. I mean, that you can be just raw, real, and have this, hey, I'm working on this, but don't try to give me the A to Z booklet to fix it, because it just
Yeah.
doesn't work.
No,
As men, we're machismo, right? I mean, are you a little bit Hispanic? You look a little bit Hispanic, homie.
Well, you're-
probably.
Yeah, you look a little
your wife's half
Chicano. We call you
Mexicans,
gringo, but
so your wife's
Puerto Rican.
Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
and
She's half Puerto Rican.
yeah,
you're one of
Yeah.
us.
yeah. But
We've adopted you.
yeah. I don't even know why I said that, but you
I also grew up in Stockton. So
Hey,
that qualifies.
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
You're Chicano, bro. What they call it? They call it.
They call him Little Rob.
Yeah.
Little Rob. You know,
Hey, I know what it's like to open up a tamale. at
Yeah,
Christmas. So
I
it's
heard
like-
that.
And that's the only thing we had to open.
Hey, I'm with you on that, 1000%,
Eating
man.
some
But
pozole, man.
man, Rob, you come from a journey, man. You
Yeah.
come from nothing in a sense, and I don't
Still
see-
on it.
Yeah, and we're all on it. And that's the hopes, is that Sharpen is that. Like,
Yeah.
you're looking at three men who are not perfect, man.
And
We
to
all have
those
issues.
Tough conversations.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
hard to say.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm struggling.
Yeah, it
Or,
is.
because to
Yeah.
have those tough conversations,
Yes.
like where else are we gonna find
Exactly.
it? And I think that's it. Even like you were saying, brotherhood. Like
Yeah.
going back to your first mentor, Steve.
Yeah.
Just that one man that was there in your life. The trajectory of your life changed. Bro.
Yeah.
Someone poured into you, and we reciprocate that
It's
with each other.
incredible. man.
Yeah.
Community is needed, man.
And I got,
Totally.
I got to at my wedding. He showed up, and Lisa and I, we got married during the whole COVID-19.
I found love during
shutdown,
COVID
and-
too.
Hey.
And but we had our wedding last year, October. We actually had our family and friends.
How many
out,
kids you have in there? Nuts.
And
I'm sorry.
yeah, he really is Mexican.
I love it.
No, but I
Yeah.
had Steve out, and I really got to just put my arm around him, and I said, I don't
Wow.
think you realize the impact that you've had on me.
Yeah. Wow.
And I had the opportunity to I had a moment with him.
Yeah.
And I still don't think he gets it. 'cause
Yeah.
he's very humble.
Yeah.
He's like, oh no, I was just in the right place, right time.
Yeah.
It's like, no, man, you spoke so much life into me.
Yeah.
And I need to do better at hanging out with them.
Yeah.
All the time and
Yeah.
making time for him, because time, like, tomorrow's not promised to any of us, right?
That's so good.
But I'm
Mhm.
glad that I was able to have that conversation with them and show him and look around, look at these people.
Yeah.
And a lot of these people in that room, at the wedding, I met because of Steve's impact.
Wow.
And that was incredible. And I told him that. And you just never know the impact that you're going to have on
Right.
somebody. You never know what you're going to say to somebody that's going to change the trajectory of their life.
Right.
And so I'm always looking for those moments. I'm always looking for those opportunities. And again, I fail more than I succeed in that. But
Yeah.
I'm always open to that, because I want to be that person. I want to be that Steve Martin that
Yeah.
speaks life into somebody
Yeah.
and helps get somebody up,
Mhm.
bring them out of that mire.
Yeah, man.
And
That's
it-
powerful,
it's,
man.
It's incredible. The opportunities are there,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They're there
Especially in
every
this
day.
world, man.
Yeah. So
and,
good.
And think about how many young men need that.
Yeah. Mhm.
I myself, Jose knows that my one of my closest mentors, my former pastor, he just passed away
Yeah.
in May. He was like a dad to me,
Yeah.
and I've known that man for 10 years, and he was one that poured into me like a father figure, poured into my life, saw me
Yeah.
at my weakest, saw me when I went through some things, and that vulnerability. I think that was the first time I ever cried in front of a grown man.
Yeah.
And feeling that, and then learning, and then Jose's one of my close friends. You're a good friend, close friend, and just I would have never learned that.
Yeah.
How much we need each other as communities. It's powerful how just, you know, when I think about, you know, Jesus, how, you know, even after he fed the multitudes and healed them, what did he have that people followed him, bro?
Yeah.
Because he had a relationship.
Yeah.
And when you build relationships, I
Yeah.
know I can call,
Yes.
and we get on each other's nerves sometimes. We're
Yes.
brothers, you know.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll
We wrestle.
Sometimes I want to be
Hold
This is
on.
gonna hold another conversation.
I'll be
A
like,
very
you know,
organic and raw conversation. man.
choke him out, he'll choke me out. I'm like,
He's
like
in his Marine Corps silkies.
Yeah. Hoorah.
with my combat boots. Don't get jealous, babe.
All right, we're
But
going off track
no,
here.
But no, like all jokes aside, like, you know, we've
Yeah.
had those tough conversations, but I
yeah.
know I can call, hey, bro.
Yes.
And you know, even just last year, I went through something really, you guys know, with my older daughter, bro. I was
Yeah.
broken, and
Yeah.
had I not learned to reach out, and as a man, I'm 36 years old. I know you guys in your 40s.
Yeah.
Colonoscopy age. I'm not there yet. I'm not too.
I'm not there yet either.
There's a buy one get one.
I had to learn. I had to learn
Love
how
it.
to reach out.
Yeah.
I had to learn, like, yo, I'm not doing good. I
Yeah.
reach out, and you know, my
I took you
friend
to
that passed
breakfast.
away,
Yeah.
taking me to breakfast, he's
Yeah.
taking me out, and you know,
Yeah.
just like that, I didn't have that, and then learning that with Steve, he passed away, and just being able to reciprocate that, where we see people like we're blessed. You know, how many more men out there need something like this? Like,
Right.
yo, we got you. Like, you don't. I was just in class. I'm, you know, sociology major, and like they just said that the suicide rate amongst men is ridiculous. Bro.
Yeah.
They'll do it.
Yes.
They'll get
Oh,
the
yeah.
job done. You know,
Yeah.
they'll do it.
Yeah.
Depression,
Yeah.
87% of anxiety. You know,
Yeah.
it's a lot. So to have that, like, I can lean on someone where
Yeah.
they're not trying to fix me, tell me, like you said, give me a playbook.
Yeah.
Tell them, lift me up, bro.
Yeah.
Bring me back to life. Be my brother.
Yeah.
Carry me.
Yeah.
Have my back. You know, and we need that. So I appreciate spaces like this where hearing, you know, you're a tough guy. He's
Yeah.
really involved. You guys all have titles and positions, but we can lay that down and say, look, it's okay not to be okay. Reach out.
Yes.
That should inspire others
Yeah.
to
Mhm.
reach out for the help. You're not, don't let the demons get to you. You're
Yeah.
not in this alone.
That's
You know,
right.
you said it.
Never
while you're-
alone, man.
Yeah.
While you're
You feel
breathing,
it.
there's
Yeah.
still hope. If you're still breathing, there's still hope. God
Yeah.
has a purpose. God has a plan for your life. Like, it's not over till God says it's over.
You're hurt. You're not dead.
That's right,
As long
man.
as you're hurting, you're alive. Yeah, I'm gonna use that next time I
Yeah.
stub my toe or something. I'm still alive. I'm still alive.
Yeah, Rob, man. Well, your story is powerful, man, and we want to give you some room to kind of have some closing comments to our audience, man. This platform is yours, and I know that you also have a podcast, and I'll go ahead and show it there. What's the name of that podcast?
It's the Voice of Reason podcast.
Voice of Reason. That's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube.
Yeah.
It's on Spotify. It's on Apple. It's on most of the major stuff.
Okay, and then if you use your phone right now, you can scan that QR code right there, and it'll directly
Yeah,
take you to that podcast.
And I
there.
think we're gonna share the link tree. And
Yeah.
all that stuff. It has all my socials and stuff on
Yeah.
it. But yeah, no, you know, if you're out there, man, and you heard something, then you're like, hey, man, you know, maybe I don't feel like I have somebody that I can talk to.
Yeah.
You know, get a hold of us.
Yeah.
Get a hold of me. Get a hold of George.
Yeah.
And Jose, man. Like, you know, that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
And you know, again, you know, I'll just reiterate, you know, your story's still being written.
That's right. It's a journey.
And you might be hurt, but you're not dead.
Yeah.
And you know, just like the paramedic told me that day, you know, the fact that you're feeling pain means you're still alive, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And so, you know, don't let the enemy win
Yeah.
and just give up,
Right.
because you again, man, your story is going to be so powerful.
Yeah.
And you know, yeah,
Yeah.
I'll make myself available for people.
Yeah, no, that's so good, Rob, man. Well, one of the things we like to do as we close out the show is we don't want to give you flowers at your funeral, man. We want to give you flowers now. And so what that means is basically that we took that, Patrick brought that into the room, and he got it from somewhere else. But man, what we want to do is we just like to say, you know, thank you, man. Thank you for all you do.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for your
You're still serving.
staying involved, staying connected, being vulnerable, being open, and thank you for not being okay.
Yeah.
Because a lot of men out there, you might be, you know, a CEO, you might be a pastor, you might be, you know, a law enforcement officer, and you have to have this toughness, and I get it. At the end of the day, Rob, man, you said it yourself. Now you have some time to de-escalate, to learn, and to engage, and I want to honor you for doing that.
Thank you.
You know, and thank you for all you do, man. The
Yeah.
millions of lives that you touch, and the millions of lives that you're saving, you know, without even knowing it, man. So, George, you got any flowers, man? roses.
It's crazy you say that. I heard that man will get his first set of flowers at his funeral. It's
Yeah.
deep. But going back to that, yeah, man. Thank you for your service. 19 years to protect the community, and then just that you continue to serve, bro. You continue to serve your communities. Like that's a calling, brother. That's a calling that you could be right now hanging on the Bahamas somewhere, toes in the sand, but you're still serving, bro, even after retirement. So I want to thank you for that, man. And likewise to all our officers out there, law enforcement, military, first responders. Thank you for all you do.
Yeah.
And we appreciate you. We appreciate you, brother. And I know that I'm not choking up. I got a phlegm in my mouth. But and that just being vulnerable, that accountability, that stuck with me, man. It's okay not to be okay. Reach out, reach help. There's help for you, and thank you for that, man. And coming from a guy who's been in shootouts, who's been shot at, you've been shot, literally, and you're saying, hey, it's okay to get help. I think that's going to inspire other men to say, if you're going through it, reach out. You're not alone.
And that's what makes everything, all the trauma that I went through, that's what makes it okay for me.
Yeah.
Would you get shot again?
I hope not. It hurts. I shoot back now. So. I tell you, man, I'm saved, not soft.
I heard that,
like
bro.
I use that a lot now.
Yeah, that's good.
Don't get it twisted. I'm saved, not soft.
Yeah, amen. Amen. Well, man, thank you so much again, Rob, man. Let's give him a big hand, man. Thank you so much for being on. We appreciate you tuning in, and we thank you all for tuning in. Do us a favor, go ahead and hit the subscribe button on YouTube and like and notification, all that type of stuff. And if you're watching on Facebook, hit the like, hit that share button. Let's get this word out, man. Powerful story. And man, we're gonna wrap it up at the end of the year with just a sharpened recap of the year and just really simple conversation about what's ahead for 2024. And so stay tuned next month. We'll be here. We'll be posting on our Instagram. Follow us there on Instagram. Follow us on Facebook and YouTube, and stay up to date. We also have a website, journeymannation.com. You can contact us. And if you want to get in connected with Rob, we'll put you directly in connected with him and get you the link tree and all that type of stuff, where if you want to bring some training to your church, or if you want to bring some training to your school sites, or whatever it is, maybe your business, just to bring that awareness to, to keep safety, we'll connect you there. So we appreciate you for tuning in, and we will see you all next month. Again, thanks, Rob. Appreciate you, bro. We'll see you next month.
But today we must take a wider look. Because of modern communication and modern technology, the whole world has become our neighborhood. And we are demographically moving closer and closer to each other, and we've become a neighborhood without becoming a brotherhood.
Journeyman is a platform where men can lay down their titles, grow together, learn from each other, and be accountable to each other. Many of us deal with several problems throughout our lives, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. At times, we may feel alone in our troubles. However, Journeyman is a space where you can feel safe expressing yourself with other men that are on the same path. Journeyman is a space for people like myself who never thought they would be living purposefully